All right, we will call the Oklahoma County Planning Commission to order, room 2204, 1:30 p.m., November 21st, 2024. Notice of this meeting posted November 15th, 2024. Call to order. Roll call, Eric.
It is. Oh, there we go. Okay. The members of the Planning Commission today are Mr. Rob Murray, Mr. Charles DeFuria,
Present.
Mr. Rob Talbot,
Here.
Ms. Denise Patterson,
Here.
Mr. Greg Davidson,
Here.
Mr. Gary Jewell, and Mr. Paul Foster sitting in for Commissioner Davidson.
Okay, well, I guess we should say welcome. Congratulations, being part of the board. Did you get a name tag at some point?
He's just blank.
It's just blank. Make sure you get yourself one of these badges because it makes it so much easier getting in. All right. Item number 4, approval of minutes of the previous meeting. Everybody should have gotten a copy of it. Is there any updates or changes that need to be made to it? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria, Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, Mr. Foster.
Okay, minutes approved. Item number 5 and item number 6 are companion items. Eric, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, so we will hear the discussion on both items and then vote on them separately afterwards. So item 5 is the discussion and possible action to approve / deny the general plat of Bonanza Garden Estates GP 2024-16. And item number 6 is discussion and possible action to approve / deny the final plat of Bonanza Gardner Estates FP 2024-11. Eric?
Yes, Ms. Gardner is the owner of this particular lot, and what she is wanting to do is to split the 5-acre parcel into 2.5 acres. This is something that's required now due to the change of the subdivision regulations that took place back in June of 2021. So it's no longer a simple lot split procedure. It has to go in front of the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners as far as a formal plat that has to be filed. So all she's asking for is just to split her 5-acre lot into 2.5 acre lots and move forward from there.
And the county has no objections?
No, sir.
Anybody have any questions for Eric? Is there anyone here who'd like to talk in favor of this project?
I'm Carol Gardner.
If you could state your name and address, please.
Carol Gardner, 21837 Old Oak Road, Newalla, Oklahoma.
So you're splitting lots.
I'd like to split it, yes. I've lived there for 27 years and I need to make some changes.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions for? Appreciate it. Anyone else who'd like to talk in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, is there anyone here who would like to talk against this project? Hearing and seeing none, then I will entertain 2 motions, and we'll start with item number 5, discussion and possible action to approve / deny the general plat of Bonanza Gardens Estate, GP 2024-16.
Second.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, and Mr. Foster.
Okay, item 6, I'll entertain a motion to approve / deny the final plat of Bonanza Garden Estates FP 2024-11.
Motion to approve?
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, and Mr. Foster.
Okay, so items 5 and 6 are approved. Ma'am, just so you know, they will now go to the board of, they'll go to
Right.
Board of County Commissioners. You'll be notified when they talk about it at their next meeting.
So I have to get it on the agenda. I'm hoping to do that the 1st of December. So I'll contact you to let you know. At that point, they're just signing off on the plat, so you can file.
Okay, item number 7. Discussion, possible action to approve / deny the replat of lots 18 and 19 of Deer Park RE 2024-02. Eric?
Yes, so the owner of lot 18 to the west and the owner of lot 19 have come together, and the owner of lot 19 has decided to buy a small portion of lot 18. That red portion that sits in between the two lots there is the lot that is trading hands, if you will, from lot 18 to lot 19. That total area, if I remember correctly, is a tenth or 2/10 of an acre that's being transferred from one lot to another. Basically, lot 19 will now be 2 acres in size. Lot 18 will be after a little bit around 2 acres as well. This particular subdivision is zoned R1, acreage residential. So from my understanding, the owner of lot 19 wants to add an additional residence. And so this transfer of property from one to the other will help him get to that 2-acre minimum that he needs to build an additional residence on that particular piece of property. So that's all they're doing there is just transferring a small piece of property to make that work.
And for the purpose of this discussion, we don't need to worry about what he's gonna do with the property afterwards, just whether we're going to transfer it over.
Right, it's a residential subdivision, so the only thing they can do is residential in nature. But this just gives him the ability to add an additional residence to the lot there.
I assume that Mr. Hand is the owner of lot 19.
He is, from my understanding, he is the owner of lot 18. And the gentleman that owns lot 19 is here to speak as well.
Any other questions for Eric? Okay. Is there anyone here who'd like to talk in favor of this project?
I would. As he said, I'm lot 19 owner.
Name and address.
I'm
for-
sorry, Kevin Daniels, 4222 Fawn Meadow Drive. Keith is next door. He's 83 and didn't want to come today, so he sent me on his behalf. I have a notarized. If I need to speak for him, then okay. Anyway, the whole point is to add an ADU for my mother, who's in her 80s as well. So we've been trying to get her to move closer for several years, and this would allow us to get real close to her next door to us. So that's the whole purpose of the expansion, to be legal.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, Eric, can we get a copy of the,
I'll take that. Yeah. That's mine.
Okay.
That's yours. Okay. That's yours.
Sorry.
No.
Thank you.
do we need to make a motion to receive that? Okay, so can we have a motion to receive the notarized document? Second? Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, and Mr. Foster.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to talk in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, is there anyone here who'd like to talk against this project? Hearing and seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve / deny item number 8. No, it's item number 7.
I'll second.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell,
Yes.
and Mr. Foster.
Okay, item approved, and same thing, Eric will let you know when it gets on the Board of County Commissioners. You're welcome. Item number 8, discussion and possible action to approve / deny the preliminary plat for Orchard Hills Section 1, PP 2024-02.
So, yes, this item has been in front of you before previously, and so I just want to go in a little bit more in depth of how we got to where we are today. So the Planning Commission, this item was first brought to the Planning Commission back in January of this year. The Planning Commission that time, 3 of you voted no, and 2 of you voted yes for the proposal. So the Planning Commission had denied it. That denial went to the Board of County Commissioners. It was heard by the Board of County Commissioners in February of this year. For them to move forward with the zoning, the Board of County Commissioners had to unanimously, all 3 vote yes to move forward with the zoning, which they did on February the 21st. On April the 18th, the general plat was in front of this board. And basically the general plat is just a general drawing of what the subdivision is going to be, just a general design. All the members of the Planning Commission at that time did approve the general plat to move forward. Now back previously when this case was in front of you the last time, that was back in September. So what they're doing at the preliminary plat phase is just the engineering. In this particular case, they've decided to split this subdivision in half, if you will. This is the east half that they're wanting to move forward with as far as construction. The west half is something that will be done in the future. The staff and the county engineer have reviewed the plans that were submitted to us as far as the engineering, and that includes the drainage calculations, that includes the paving, the street layout. All of that was submitted to us and reviewed. There were some minor changes that we got with the engineer, and those have been corrected. And so they're back today to try to get approval for the preliminary plat. Nothing has changed from the previous version, from my understanding. I'll let Mr. Dillon speak to that if I'm incorrect, but from my understanding, there's no changes that have been made from what was submitted previously. So basically what my point is we're just moving forward with what was approved in the general plat that was approved back in April. Nothing has changed as far as the design or any of that. So it's really just approving the engineering today. Now, with that said, there have been 2 letters of protest that have been received. Those were just received yesterday, so none of you have received that information. So I do want to take a few minutes just to provide that information so you can get a quick look at that. I did have an opportunity to provide that to Mr. Dillon as far as what those protests were.
So just to clarify, Eric, when we did the general plat, did we do it for the whole development or just this section?
So the general plat was for the whole development. And they have the option in our regulation to sectionalize if they want to do a portion. And that's what they've chosen to do in this case. So that's not unusual. That happens quite frequently.
So at this point, we're just approving this one section and they'd have to come back with the other sections at the time they're ready.
That is correct. They would have to come back with the engineering for the portion to the west. And so I don't know if Mr. Dillon wants to address one of the letters. One of the letters.
Before we get there, does anybody have any questions for Eric?
The lot dimensions did not change, did they?
No, and I know in the previous meeting, there was some discussion because there were some last minute changes. Those, basically, they just kept those same changes that were described at the same meeting. Apparently, there were several meetings with the property owners back to the south during the creation of the subdivision itself to where those lots that are abutting Cedar Ridge Farms are larger in size. Those lots are 2 acres in size, whereas you go north from Cedar Ridge Farms, those lots are 1 acre or maybe a little bit more in size. So that was something that the property owner had worked out with the property owners in Cedar Ridge Farms.
All these lots are at least 1 acre.
Correct. 1 acre or larger.
Eric, I don't know if this is a question for you, Mr. Dillon, but there seems to be a structure or home that's currently located in the center of the cul-de-sac on Orchardville Circle. Talk more about that?
So are you talking about, in this picture, the cul-de-sac that's to the bottom? Oh, okay. Okay, it's a house that's gonna be demoed. Right.
So this pond that's, or is it a lake or a pond to the west is, it looks like there's like trees in between, like there's a little pond and then a bigger pond. Is that right?
So that was one of the items that I was hoping Mr. Dillon could kind of explain more. One of the process that you have there is the neighboring property owner that's in Cedar Ridge Farms. His concern is as the water leaves that particular development, it goes north into Orchard Hills. It takes a 90-degree turn and then it takes another 90-degree turn to get back into the pond. His concern is that those 90-degree turns are going to be more restrictive as far as water flow. From our standpoint, I don't think there would be any issue, but I want to let Mr. Dillon address that particular question to see if there's any possibility of changing that, or since I'm not familiar with the topography of the property there, if that's just something that topography-wise works best for that particular development.
Is the drainage just gonna be done by grading, or is there gonna be storm drains associated with the roads and everything on this property?
A combination of both. There's obviously there's going to be some grading to get everything to grade the way that it's been designed, but there are also drainage structures that are in there. As far as each individual lot, there's a bar ditch that helps facilitate drainage as well. So it's a combination of all three of those items that help get the water back to that pond.
Then on the lot sizes that are shown on the plot, it shows dotted lines and they side. There's gaps. Is that just build easements that are in between the property and then setbacks from the road?
Correct. So basically what you're seeing there is just a buildable area that they can build on. So there are setbacks. Typically those setbacks are 25 feet from any property line. So depending on which lot you're looking at, but there's a 25-foot setback. Then from the middle of the road itself, there's an 80-foot setback.
And then all the roads that we built as to county standards to where later can be maintained by the county, or is it gonna be all totally private roads, or how they address that?
So the county, the way we do roads now, during the change to our subdivision regulation in 2021, the county took a more proactive approach to go out and make sure that when the roads themselves are being built, in this particular case, it's in District 3, the road maintenance yard crews will go out there to basically supervise the construction of those roads. So they go out there to make sure that the subgrade is built properly. They make sure that when the asphalt is being laid, it's laid properly. And the applicant will actually pay a fee for that up front. Now that fee is based on the total cost of the project itself. And so as an example, I think if the project is a $500,000, excuse me, I think there's a fee of $200 as an example. So the more the project costs, the more that fee increases. But basically that fee is to serve as payment to the county for their time to oversee. So we don't differentiate between private or public roads when they're first constructed. We want to make sure that no matter what the road is, it's built to the same standard. So if they want to make these roads private roads, the people that live in there have the same quality as road as anybody else does.
So with the new standards, are they required to put curbs and gutters, or can they just be asphalt going out to the edge?
It can be just asphalt going out to the edge. Really, when you get into curb and gutter, some of it is up to the developer themselves, but there are also a requirement as you get smaller lots. So typically when you get into city-sized lots, which is typically 6,000 square foot lots to 10,000 square foot lots, there's a provision in our regulations where you're going to have sidewalk, you're going to have other requirements to be met. So in this particular case, they can get away from that to some degree because of the lot sizes that they're working with.
Any other questions for Eric? Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to talk in favor of this project?
David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. Kendall Dillon, the engineer on the project. So, as Eric said, this is just the general plat. It conforms to the zoning, it actually exceeds the zoning. The zoning would allow 1 acre lots, but during the time between Planning Commission, Board of County Commissioners, we had meetings with the county commissioner. We agreed to put 2 acre lots on that south line, which is reflected. We agreed to do the 50-foot building limit line, which is reflected in this plat. So we conform or exceed all zoning and or general plat requirements. There were 2 letters, as Eric said. One of them had contact information. Kendall was able to reach out to that person via email to try to explain the drainage. The other letter didn't have any contact information, so there was no way for us to try to get a hold of that person. But Kendall can explain how the drainage is going to work for you.
Sorry. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Box? We just want to make things
Sure.
official so we don't have to come back. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Kendall Dillon with Crafton Toll, representing the applicant. And as David mentioned and Eric alluded to, one of the protest letters come from a neighbor that lives in this house. It's a little bit hard to see, but this is south of our project. The drainage, everything drains to the big pond in the middle, including there's 5 acres, a little over 5 acres that drains from the south. There's an existing street in the Cedar Farms addition here, and it may be a little bit hard to see. But there's an existing culvert that captures the water south of this street, and it puts it in a channel in between these 2 houses. The neighbor on the west side of the channel is the one that emailed Eric with concerns about drainage. She sent some pictures, and if you look at the pictures, you can see the drainage that's coming through and between her and her neighbor's house. It's really flat. There's really no depth in their ditch, so it spreads out fairly wide. But you'll notice, and I sent her our design on it, but we obviously are accepting all that water. We have to. It would be against state statute as well as your code if we blocked it and further damaged anybody. So we obviously have accounted for it. We are grading and going to have a sodded swell that captures every bit of that water and conveys it on around to the pond, which is where it goes now. We actually, in the channel that we're constructing, we're accepting all of it from them. And then we're going to have a little steeper grade in our channel so that actually it'll increase the velocity and it'll pull it away from them a lot. But there's nothing that we're doing. It's all accounted for, and there's nothing that we're doing that would have any adverse impact on them. I did, like David mentioned, I sent her an email yesterday with my cell phone. She did not respond, but I'll continue to communicate with them. I'll be happy to meet with them even while we're building it, just to make sure that they're comfortable and that they're squared away. So certainly we don't want any drainage issues. Everything that you see drainage wise complies with your ordinance, has been reviewed by your engineers. And so again, on the drainage side, I think everything's covered, and we'll continue to communicate with the one neighbor that's got a concern.
Questions?
I've got a question about this other floodplain line.
Sure.
I mean, I think you're holding yours where like it's not north and south.
Well, north would be, it'd be like that.
So I'm talking about up there. So that's a floodplain. And then what is the, and what's in between there? Just some high ground or something?
No, we're leaving all of that natural. And that's that pond is about 13 acres in size. So from a detention capacity, obviously it has a huge amount of storage, but it literally is just 2 existing ponds. The big pond captures everything from the south, and it conveys it through an outlet here. And there's actually a pipe in the middle, but this is the primary overflow that comes around. And this is just a channel, goes to another pond, and then it just continues to work its way to the north. So we're not making any modifications. We're staying away from the drainage way.
I'm good. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. Anyone here to talk against this, or anyone else here to talk in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, is there anyone here who would like to talk against this project? Hearing and seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve / deny item number 8, the preliminary plat for Orchard Hill Section 1, PP 2024-02.
Motion to approve?
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, Mr. Foster.
Okay, item number 8 approved. Item number 9, discussion and possible action to approve / deny the preliminary plat of Bellagio Phase 2, PP 2024-03.
So this particular item is the preliminary plat of Bellagio. They've kind of split this up as this project has moved forward. This is on the southwest side of the development. So it's just a continuation of that. Really, the only thing that has changed between the general plat and this version of the preliminary plat where all the engineering is done. In the general plat, there was 22 lots, and in the preliminary plat, there's 26 lots. And so the difference that has changed is on that east side of the development, they moved that common area further up. I assume, and I'll let them speak, but I assume that's to help maintain the park that's out there or near that particular common area. And so that freed up those lots that are adjacent to it to where they could put more lots there. So that's really the main change between the general plat and the preliminary plat. The county engineer and staff have reviewed the engineering, didn't have any issues. I know one of the concerns from the planning commission was that the sanitary sewer be installed out here, even though it's something that couldn't be utilized at this time because the city of Oklahoma City's water treatment plant is at capacity. From the plans, and I would like just verification, but from the plans, the sanitary sewer lines are going to be installed at the back of these lots as you go around the subdivision to where it can be accessed at a later time once the houses are built. So that was my only concern. That's what I got from the plans. So I just want to verify that aspect of it. But besides that, everything else has matched what has been stated in previous meetings, and that it was matched as the zoning that was initially done years ago for the project itself. If there's any other questions of me, I'll be happy to answer those, but like I said, that was the only question that I had from staff standpoint.
Any questions for Eric?
So, on the way this thing's platted, you got lots in group 1 around the perimeter, and then you got a group 2 that's 1 through 5 also. Why is the reasoning for that? Or is that just
It's just how the way you number the lots is arbitrary, if you will. Really doesn't matter. It really boils down to when you file the final plat, how people put those on the deed and how they're legally referenced. So right now, that's how they're going to lay it out, which is fine. It's just kind of arbitrary. There's nothing specific about it. If I'm understanding your question correctly.
still 26 lots, though? You said previous, and then they've got 21 in one group and then 5 in another. So
Right. So previously in the general plat, the difference, like I say, was in the northeast corner. They had just had combined a couple of those lots, and the common area was in a different location. So with the movement of that common area, it freed up those other lots to make them smaller than what they were originally. So as far as the amount of property, which is approximately 24 acres, the amount of property has remained the same. Just the layout of the property has changed to some degree between the general plat and the preliminary plat.
is there a minimum size lot here?
So the minimum size you can do, so if you look to the north a little bit, some of those lots are 3/4 of an acre. So the way the PUD is set up in that manner. They have access to Deer Creek water and the city of Oklahoma City sewer. So they could actually go lower if they so choose. Now they would have to modify their PUD, which is the statement that basically holds the zoning the way it currently stands today. But if they wanted to, they could modify that. But in this particular case, most of these homes that are in here are fairly large homes. Most of them are multi-million-dollar homes. So I think they enjoy just the larger lot sizes that they have and the larger common spaces that they have. Really, the only difference that kind of holds them back in this particular instance is the city of Oklahoma City is not allowing any new connection to their sewer lines at this particular time in this part of the county because the sewage treatment plant that is located off of 206th and Portland is at capacity. So it's been that way for about a year, maybe a little bit more, and they don't foresee that being solved until 5 or 6 years from now. So that was one of the concerns that I had mentioned earlier that the planning commission had was having access to sanitary sewer so these new homes could connect to that at some point in time in the future when there's capacity available.
So they'll put the infrastructure in now, but it won't be tied to it. So as far as septic systems, do they have a standardized septic or will it be a aerobic type system? That we have to put in on the sidewalk?
They can use either one. Basically, it boils down to when they come get a building permit from the county, they have to supply us that information, and those systems are regulated by the Oklahoma Department of Environmental Quality. So we rely on them to make sure that the system that's being put in is the appropriate system based on the lot size and the material there that's in the ground. But basically, the common law that we go by in regards to those systems is if you don't have access to a public water supply or sewer, the smallest lot you can have is 3/4 of an acre to be on a water well and a septic or an aerobic type of system. Now you can go down to a half-acre lot if you have access to a public water supply and still be on an aerobic or a traditional septic system. And then once you go smaller than that, you're pretty much required to have either sewer and water to go. Anything smaller than that is the typical standard.
So, you done?
No, just thanks for entertaining me.
So these are not 1 acre lots?
No, they're not. I think there's some of them that are a little bit smaller than that, but they all hover around that neighborhood.
When did we approve the general plat?
So the general plat was back in, if I remember correctly, August.
Okay.
So as far as the lot sizes, they're pretty much standard. They've stuck with those. Like I said, they've just made a design change on that east side. But it fits with the zoning that was approved quite some time ago. The zoning that's been out there since, if I recall correctly, 2018. So it's really just a continuation of that neighborhood and that zoning that's allowed.
Eric, am I correct in saying that phase 2 of this development from the last time it was brought before the commission was reduced in size significantly?
Well, when it was initially brought to the planning commission, they included this portion here and a portion that's on the northeast corner. Since that point in time, there was an issue with the floodplain that was out there, so they decided to separate those. So this is the southwest portion. I think the northeast portion that has been approved as far as a general plat, but now they have to deal with the floodplain issue, and that's going to take quite some time. This particular portion of this subdivision is not in the floodplain, so that's probably why they separated, so they could at least move forward with construction of this portion while they're dealing with those difficulties that they're going to have to deal with in regards to the floodplain on the portion that comes off of Northwest 220.
Extend beyond floodplain is my concern. I talked with a homeowner there this morning that kind of lives just north of this, and they said there's still standing water out there when it rained before.
Oh, I'm sure there is, no doubt. And so when they go out there to grade that, they're going to have to grade that to address that problem. I mean, without knowing the specific location, it's hard to tell. Now, I will say that this particular development to the south backs up to a portion of that floodplain, but these lots themselves are not in the floodplain, but they are adjacent to that creek. So I'm sure during the grading of this property to build the roads, to build the other drainage improvements, that's something that would be addressed.
Eric, I got a question. So you're saying they're gonna put a sewer line all along the south side?
Right, from the plans that I have seen, basically, if you go along the back of those lots that are there, it's going to go along the south portion of those lots, and then as you come around to the east side, there's a line that's between the new lots and the lots that exist currently.
Are the
And they're
exist-
they're actually gonna put that sewer line in there? So
Right.
that they could tap into it at some point in the future?
Right, that is correct. And I want them to, I want to verify that with them, but that's according to the plans, yes.
Some piggyback off what he said, the existing lots that are, the sewer lines there, is that being utilized right now? Is that?
Correct, correct. All these, the lots that you see that are further to the north, they are all utilizing the city of Oklahoma City sewer.
And just to clarify, so we're all on the same page, these lot sizes were dictated through the PUD years ago. And these lot sizes are in compliance with the PUD that was approved years ago.
Correct.
Any other?
So,
Go ahead.
For that sewer line, it's gonna slope to the east, is that correct?
Well, I didn't, I'll rely on them as far as how it slopes, but yes, it's gonna have to drain. So they're gonna have to slope it to the direction in which that property drains. I'd have to get the plans out here and point it out for sure which direction it drains, but obviously the sewer works on gravity.
Well, in other words, it's not, maybe some of it would drain to the west, some of it would drain to the east possibly, or I don't know.
Well, that is possible. And another thing that they do have out there, they do have a pump station that is out there back south. It's not on this picture. It's actually all the way back south on 206. So there is even a pump station, and that pump station's been out there for years and years and years. That was put in place when the development was put in place initially. So you could even utilize that. But again, you're at a standstill right now until the city of Oklahoma City decides otherwise.
And this is semantics and but for the record, when we started talking about this, there was also stuff in the northwest corner that they have taken off of this whole thing as well as we move forward.
So it was the northeast corner. And so what they've done is they have separated this portion from that. So that is still in the process.
Right, no, I mean, but originally, even before that, there was, because there's, on the northwest side, there's commercial areas, and there was some conversation about that, which has since been removed from all
Right,
this too.
right.
So it's not just the northeast, but the northwest was taken out of this for right now.
Right, right. I see what you're saying now. Yeah, because there was basically, if you go a little bit further west of this particular piece, there was even some conversation of putting some commercial, and so that PUD had been modified,
Right.
to some degree. But
Right.
right, they've gone the other direction since then.
Just so that we're clear.
Sure.
Perfect. Any other questions for Eric? Okay, is there anybody here who'd like to talk in favor of this project? And she's been waiting patiently.
Hello, Jessica Bloy with Johnson Associates representing the applicant, One East Sheridan. So everything Eric stated is correct. The plat before you is 26 lots for single family. This is an extension of the existing Bellagio development. I would like to clarify the sewer questions. So Oklahoma City will not allow us to construct any sewer lines until the plant has capacity. What we will be doing is providing easements for a future connection. So the sewer lines do exist for the north development, so they are available for these proposed lots to tap into, but nothing will be constructed because the city of Oklahoma City will not allow us to do that at this time. And as far as the lot sizes go, I do believe we have a minimum half-acre lot size what is shown, but the PUD does allow us to go down to 6,000 square foot lots, which we are well over. Since there are no sewer connections at this time, we do have to have a minimum of half an acre for DEQ requirements for the sewer.
I've got a question.
Mhm.
So is the easement, I can't see the easement drawn on this preliminary plat. Is it not there?
I believe it will be coming, but I don't believe it is shown. The easement, I do believe there are utility easements shown along the proposed street, but in the back of the lots, I do not believe the easement is shown.
Okay, so for the final plat, would it be shown?
Yes, it will be.
Well, Eric's looking at that. I know it throughout this whole conversation. The common area, one of the concerns that the residents had was access, because I guess there's a park or a playground over there. Is, with the movement of this, it's still going to have access, so they can get to it?
Yes, sir. The question about the access to the common area, so that was with the northeast portion of the plat, and that was, they wanted to make sure the drive was maintained. There is an existing roadway that goes down to that park, and we are not obstructing that within this proposed plat.
It just, okay, I see.
Did you say the city of Oklahoma City does provide water to these lots? They will provide water to these lots?
Yes.
Oklahoma City or Deer Creek?
Oh, Deer Creek. My
Yeah.
apologies. My apologies. Not Oklahoma City, Deer Creek.
Yeah, just, yeah, via Oklahoma City. It all comes from the same place, but yeah. Different bottles. Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to talk in favor of this project? Hearing and seeing none, is there anyone here who would like to talk against this project? Hearing and seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion to approve / deny item number 9, the preliminary plat for Village Bellagio Phase 2 PP 2024-03.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, and Mr. Foster.
Motion approved. Item number 10, discussion and possible action to approve / deny adoption of revised building codes for the unincorporated areas of Oklahoma County. What do you got for us, Eric?
So we're in the process of updating our building codes. Currently, we are on the 2015 International Building Code and the 2014 NEC. And so we're starting to get into conflict with the state when it comes to fire code and those type of reviews. So we're upgrading to 2018. So 2018 International Building Code and the 2020 National Electric Code. So it's really just keeping up with the state and what they require. The Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission is a state office that we actually pay money to every month, as long as all jurisdictions for every inspection that we do, to review these these particular code changes and whatnot. And so we're just following along with what code they're on. And like I said, it's time. I mean, basically with the fire code, it does create some issues with some projects here recently. Luckily, it worked out where it wasn't an issue, but so we just want to avoid that and want to keep up with the state and what they require.
Eric, could you maybe just summarize what some of the changes might be from one? I mean, that's a big question.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, it doesn't affect what they do day to day. It's really your smaller stuff. I don't know anything off the top of my head that would change. I would have to get with one of the inspectors to really answer your question. But the code itself, as you can imagine, is in books and books and books. Right. So, right. So you can imagine. I mean, really, what you're getting into is you get into these homes that have utilized solar panels, solar systems, energy code. Right, EV chargers. I think that's more of the change. I think is every day just building a home, I think the majority of that stuff has stayed the same. Maybe Ms. Patterson, since she's a home builder, or Mr. Davidson can give more detail than I can, but
Is this gonna mimic what Oklahoma City has adapted? No, they've done 18 on the building code. NEC?
I'm not sure what. And I'm not familiar with what, we don't, we try to stay away from Oklahoma City, so we don't. We kind of deal with stuff as it kind of affects our jurisdiction, so we don't, I can't say that we've contacted anybody in Oklahoma City to.
So from our perspective though, if we ever made a decision based on building codes, usually all that stuff happens after we've approved or done what we've done. So this is more from our perspective, just a formality that's saying, because you guys are handling it whenever you do it.
Correct. It really boils down to the inspectors when they go out to a job site. They're doing a particular inspection. If it passes or if it fails, they can sit here and point to the code of why it fails. I would just say it affects us as far as the office. When you get into commercial, industrial projects, when you're dealing with the fire code more than anything else, since the county has taken over the authority having jurisdiction in regards to the fire code. So I would say that's the biggest change that affects us.
So our meetings aren't going to get longer and it doesn't affect us 6 people and.
No, if you want to look at it from the standpoint, probably the building code is probably the 5,000 foot view of stuff to where the majority of stuff that we deal with is at the 30,000 foot view. So that really deals with what we do on a day-to-day basis.
So Eric, just out of curiosity, so how many inspections does the county, when the county sends out their inspectors, how many inspections, like for a typical, let's say a typical single family?
So typically with a single family home, you're going to have 3 structural inspections. You're going to have, depending on how the house is built, you could have 2 or 3 mechanical inspections. You're typically going to have 3 electrical inspections, and you're typically going to have 3 plumbing inspections. So that's what you run with a typical home.
Is there a charge for each one of those inspections?
On average, the charge is $55. We do charge a little bit more for electrical. We even go a step further with the electrical that's based on square footage. So some of these houses that are, 10,000 square foot, I think we're in the neighborhood of like $100 and okay, $185, $200 per inspection.
But the selling price of a 10,000 square foot home or building is $200 is not going to be, is a drop in the bucket. So
It's what you gotta do to make it compliant that raises the price.
that's why we're not home builders.
Right. Obviously, it kind of goes along as you add more to that code and the more stringent you make, typically the cost increases.
Any other questions for Eric? Is there anyone here who'd like to talk in favor or can I do both at the same time or favor or against the adoption of the revised building codes? Hearing and seeing none for favor or against, I will entertain a motion to approve / deny the adoption of the revised building codes. Roll call, Eric?
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Mr. Davidson,
I'm gonna abstain.
Mr. Jewell, and Mr. Foster.
All right, to the important stuff. How much money are we making? Discussion and possible action to receive the October 2024 fee fund and expense report.
No, you're barely in the black.
Yeah.
My guess is as time moves forward, you're going to get into the red.
We're not doing enough $200 inspections.
Well, that's part of it, but it goes more than that actually.
No,
Should be good.
I already bought one. I think I might have to buy another one.
So what happens if we wind up in the red at the end of
So if we're in the red, depending on how much, then the Board of County Commissioners would have to give us some money. But it just depends. Right, we have to ask. That's, yes, that is true. Usually it's fairly close. Usually in the wintertime, you have this slowdown. So I'm not surprised if we would be in the red in the next few months or so. And then once spring hits, you typically have an uptick in permits to where you're back pretty close to zero is what we typically see.
And that is our ultimate goal, is to be zero. We're not trying to make money.
Right.
All right, so entertain a motion to receive the fee fund report.
Second.
Roll call, Eric.
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFury,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, and Mr. Foster.
All right, item number 12, new business. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, section 311.9, new business is defined as any matter not known about or which could not have reasonably foreseen prior to the time of the posting of this agenda. Any new business, Eric?
I would just like to welcome Mr. Gary Jewell. He is taking the place of Miss Jennifer Craig to finish her term, and then if he likes what he's doing, then we'll see if he'd like to stay for another term, but I just want to welcome him.
Is that optional? I thought they.
Yeah, I know, when did,
No, wait a second, I seen options out there before I got here. So. I thought we was talking about the fee a while ago, that was how much money we make up here.
you're gonna make the same that the rest
Same
of us.
zeros?
Yeah.
We'll add another zero each year?
It's
Wait till next January.
it is a 6-digit income. It's just we won't tell you where the decimal point is. So, all right. Then now that we're done, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second. Everybody seconds. Roll call, Eric.
Mr. Murray, Mr. DeFuria,
Yes.
Mr. Talbot,
Yes.
Ms. Patterson, Mr. Davidson,
Yes.
Mr. Jewell, and Mr. Foster. We're adjourned.